back again. Welcome to the More About Jesus podcast. My name is Al Martins, and I'm once again joined by my cousin Daniel Dunbar in Edmonton. It's the city of champions. Do they still call it that? No. It was like back when the Oilers won so much. I hated Edmonton back then when I was a hockey fan. Anyways, we're just two regular working guys who love nerdy stuff and who love Jesus even more. We're not theological experts, I'll tell you that right now, or paid pastors. Not that there's anything wrong with those people. We love them too. In fact, we're pretty much just like the 12 guys that Jesus picked to start his ministry. We're just regular dudes, right?
Yeah, Jesus picked like fishermen, like workers and stuff. He didn't pick scholars at all. He picked, the regular average Joes and zealots and tax collectors and stuff like that, right? Like, I mean, he did not pick your average run-of-the-mill people at all.
Yeah, and that's what
he did pick his average. He did pick his average run-of-the-mill people. He didn't pick like, the people who would be
in the world's
sought
eyes
after.
Anyway. In the world's eyes, Yeah. I like that part in Acts where, the disciples are just, the church is just starting and all the people are like, who are these guys? Like, aren't they just regular Galilean guys? Like, how can they be doing all that? They sound like they speak with such authority and power. It's like, yeah, that's because it's the Holy Spirit. That's awesome. Oop.
Yeah. And then it's also like, and they're following some guy from Nazareth. Like Nazareth.
Yeah,
like anything
what good can come out of Nazareth?
What good can come out of Nazareth?
Right.
It's sort of like.
So what's your last couple of weeks been about? Just more work?
Oh yeah. Work, and then more work, and Thanksgiving came around, and because that was last weekend, so prepping for that, and
what'd you guys eat?
Turkey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have to.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we got, I think the last time before we went, when we shopped at like the superstore, we spent enough money that we actually got like the free turkey. So it's like, oh. Sweet. If you spend
we
like
don't have
more
a
than
superstore, so they have that every year? Or?
Yeah, it's like about every year. It's like, if you spend $250 on groceries, you get a free turkey.
Oh, so that's easy.
Oh, yeah, especially with like 5 adults at home now, because our daughter also moved back home like within the last couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So she's moved back home, and now she's also working at another boarding facility for horses. So she found a job right away. So
that's cool.
That's good.
Yeah, nowadays that's pretty tough.
Yeah, especially in the field that she wants to be in as well, like working with horses and stuff. So, I mean, that's what she went to college for. And
cool.
Yeah, she came home and took a week off, repainted her room, reorganized, redecorated, threw out a bunch of stuff, and found a work and started working. So went on a cattle drive and drove some cattle as well. So
how many people say that about their daughter, eh? That's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, she loves it. Yeah, it's interesting because we did see her like when she was still at Lakeland College. We did go to one of the rodeos, and we actually got to see her rope cows and actually get on the do the groundwork too. Like actually like grab a cow and put it on the ground and tie it.
Wow.
So yeah, she's tough.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's tough that way.
She's a cow nerd.
Oh yeah, she's a cowboy. Yeah, because a cowboy's a job. It's not gender specific.
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah, because she says cowgirls, that's buckle bunnies, and she's not a buckle bunny. She's like, nope, cowboy. Cowboy's a job.
That makes sense.
How about you?
We had turkey too because it's Thanksgiving. I to our American listeners, Canadian Thanksgiving is, I think it's always the second weekend in October. So
yeah. Because our harvest season is a lot sooner.
Yeah. And it's weird to have it like weeks before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
We're just better. Sorry. I'm
We get
kidding.
all of
I'm
our
kidding.
Thanksgiving.
No,
And that way
my week has been busy at work, but mostly I've been overexcited for LTN Con. You could see I'm wearing the and
yeah, because the kickoff is today, is we're filming this like a day ahead of time. So this is like
so I
technically it's Friday.
yeah, Friday night. So it started. We had a big special meeting with all the biggest followers for Love Thy Nerd, um, and then we had played a bunch of games together. And throughout the whole weekend, LTN is just doing awesome online stuff. And they actually got, like, this year, their setup is amazing.
Nice.
One of the founders, Matt Warmbier, and his wife bought a pretty big house, like a really nice old house with and their whole attic area has been turned into like his office / studio for LTN stuff. So basically there's other founders have flown in, and other people flew in to visit, and so that upper room is just like packed full of nerds playing games. But they have a studio set up with a really good board game area with cameras, and then they have another computer set up somewhere else like a studio. It's just really done pretty awesome this year. I mean,
Cool.
It's because of necessity, because of COVID, but
yeah,
hopefully next year we're back to doing in-person stuff. But they do online so good.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
LTN on Twitch all weekend long. That's my jam.
Nice.
But I want to record too. But that's it. That's my week's been busy with mostly work. It's been tiring, I'll be honest.
Yeah, still harvest season, right? So
yeah. So that's what that is.
Yeah.
I rediscovered Michael Card though. That was one of the good things. So like
nice.
Back in college days, late 80s, early 90s, Michael Card was one of my favorite Christian artists. And since then I've moved past that music to different things. But somehow he grasped me. So I even, if you're in our Discord, I posted a Spotify playlist there. He's got 4 albums that are all for the 4 Gospels. And I put them in order so you can listen through like the Gospels. And he's theologically sound, but he's very challenged. He's always been one that pushed the limits of what Christians think Jesus is or does or whatever. And he's always written about Jesus. So I'm like, why haven't I been listening to this? And I made up this playlist, and I was kind of all into Michael Card this week just to prepare my brain for some of this. Yeah, so it's so good. But let's get into it. Well, last week we kind of just did one little verse, but we're not going to rush through this, right? I thought it was good.
Yeah. We unpacked one verse into like an hour-long episode.
It was
awesome. Though.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's fine. So I'm not going to apologize. If you want to know what we talked about last time, I'm not going to review it here. You'll have to listen to the podcast or watch the video. We're on verse 4 then of the Sermon on the Mount. That's kind of what we've decided to work through. And we don't have a time limit. It's going to take whatever it takes. Well, we do it for an episode, not for... I don't want this done by the end of the year or whatever. Like, that's not a goal.
Yeah.
So this one's interesting to me, too. It had me thinking, but I'll just read it. I'm still reading from the New Living, but I'm sure other versions will get into it. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. One thing I was wondering about is... So, other versions say, blessed are those who mourn, or God blesses, and then there's some that say happy. I'm not sure. Those seem like all really different things to me.
Yeah, some of the different translations, right? Like the Passion is a newer translation that came out, and don't really go for it. Like every time I've read it, I'm like, this is just not fitting right? For me personally, I mean, I know other people that are absolutely loving it, but for me, it it takes away some of the power, I think, from the Gospels or something like that. It's just like the authority almost, like it almost makes it like it's all a love letter, and which is okay, but um, there's some other things that in there that I would, yeah, just to say that I'm not a huge
I
fan of the
haven't read
Passion
it, so I'm
version.
gonna have to check that out because I'm really curious now.
Yeah, I've tried it a few times, just like because I've got like the U version Holy Bible app.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, I
that way,
use it on my phone too.
yeah, and yeah, so
Yeah,
because
that's
in the
I
Met,
don't know. Well, I used to think that about the Message, right?
yeah,
For when I was into like really literal everything, and I couldn't stand the Message, but now I find it interesting. I still some of the wordings in it sometimes kind of throws me, but
yeah, because
um,
like for in the Message for like verse 4, it says, "You are blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you."
that's wow, that's really different.
Yeah, totally different, right? It's
So
like, so instead of just
that the
like
way
being,
that's worded though, it sounds like you can't be blessed unless you've lost something.
yeah, I guess that would be almost how it sounds. Like you are blessed when you feel you've lost what's most dear to you.
Well, so it's about how you feel.
Yeah. I guess that, well, that would be mourning. Mourning is more of a feeling, right? And but then only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. And like the one is like as if he's saying like I am. So it's like the
It's
capital
obviously
O
yeah.
one.
I don't know that one I don't like.
Hmm.
Be like so God will God only comfort people that is. It just makes it sound conditional to me.
Hmm.
I don't know. I would have had to wrestle with that before but then I don't translate, so I don't know. I'm not ready to. I don't know. That's one of the thoughts I first had was that you actually have something worth mourning about. Like that to me, that was like
Yeah.
some people have nothing to mourn about because then nothing mattered to them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like if let's use like if you have a pet, we'll use something that's easy for us to understand, that's not offensive necessarily, or hopefully not triggering, but who knows?
It's all triggering.
We've all lost a pet, right? So, so that
Yeah.
you heard, but it was a privilege to have that pet for all those years. But when it dies, it really hurts. But you can look at it this way, like, well, at least I had that. Because if I didn't have a pet, or if I didn't care about this dog that died, like if he was just a pain in my side and I didn't care about him, then his death I wouldn't mourn.
Yeah.
I'd just be good riddance. So then,
Hmm.
I guess when you're mourning the loss of something or someone, it's a it can be seen as a good thing because you actually had something that good in your life. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Is that weird?
Yeah, that can make sense in the fact that you've lost something, so now you can be comforted, right? It was otherwise you haven't. If you didn't have anything that you felt a sense of loss about, you wouldn't be comforted. I don't know.
You can't be comforted if you're not in
Mm.
a bad spot. You don't need,
That's true.
you know what I
That's
mean?
true. That's true. Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, I sort of do like how the NIV puts it in a lot better, where it's like, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." That's just straightforward. Like
Yeah, that's what New Living basically is too. Instead of blessed are
Yeah.
those, it's God blesses those who.
Yeah. 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 So very, very similar. It's just like, uh, yeah, no, that's a, you can take that different ways, right? But I think the main thing is like, you know what? When you mourn, you will be comforted,
Yeah, that's kind of
right?
what I like to. So is some
Right.
of this poetic, like the way he's seeing it? Like I've had to adjust my thinking
Mm-hmm.
because when you use wording like God blesses such and such and such, God blesses this and that, it sounds like we have to do this stuff and then God will bless us. Do
Mm.
this, follow this condition. If this condition is met in your life, God will bless you. If you don't, then God won't bless you. That's how that wording, that's where it takes me down. But I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that, like Paul mentions somewhere, I don't know where, I should have looked it up, that we've already been blessed with every spiritual blessing in the heavenlies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like asking for more blessings, I've always thought that seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Keith Green
I don't think
even
it,
mentioned that. He says it's like in one of his songs, it's like, bless me, Lord, bless me, Lord. You know, that's all I ever hear.
yeah.
We should be aching and mourning with people instead of always just wanting the blessings, but
Mhm.
like we don't
I
have
I don't
enough.
yeah, I don't think it's that um I think these are more like this is what's going to happen, right? You don't have to ask for the blessing. It's just like when you mourn, God's going to comfort you, right? That's the kingdom. I think that's the kingdom stuff that Jesus was talking about here. It's like here's the rules. This is what's going to happen when this happens to you, because it's going to happen to you. This is what you can expect, right?
I like that.
It's like when you are in, like, I mean, because this is his opening statement to the kingdom, right? This is the, you know, the Beatitudes was like the opening statement. So it's sort of like this is sort of like the short version of the mission statement of the kingdom. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you're in the kingdom. When you mourn, we will comfort you. God will comfort you. Jesus will comfort you. The Holy Spirit will comfort you, right? If you remain in him, right?
Hmm.
Because like most people that I know that have stayed within like a really focused like I know people that are, I wouldn't say like super, uh, okay, you know, a churchy kind of term would be like they're super spiritual, but they're just in the presence of God,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're just the type of person that's just dug in deep, and they're very solid in Jesus, right? And not
And
in
they're
a
in
churchy
tune
kind.
with that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then so when stuff like this does happen, yeah, they still mourn, they still feel. And we still do. We still feel it, right? You lose a loved one, you lose a pet, you lose, you know, you lose a job, you lose whatever. It's like, yeah, they mourn the loss of that, but ultimately they're also comforted at the same time, and they know that they're comforted, and they know that, you know, God's got their back and God will be there for them,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah, that's, see, now I've had to come to be like, if you listen to the very first episode, we talk about my deconstruction, reconstruction experience. Now, there's mourning in that because there's things I used to have that I don't have now,
yeah.
as far as my relationship to God and relationship to the church, things that I miss.
Hmm.
And it's part of that mourning. And I'm glad to know I still have that in me, that I believe that God will comfort me. I didn't lose any of that. So that
Hmm.
really actually is a blessing. Even the term God of all comfort, I just like, there's nowhere better to be comforted if you're mourning something that's a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, one other thing. Well, there's lots of things. But one thing that really stood out to me, is the concept of this. A mournful person is not hiding their feelings or hurt. They face them head on, feel it, and own it.
Yeah.
So I think this is important. It kind of ties into what we talked about last time. That if you keep pushing those things aside and don't deal with your hurt, like, so if you lost your wife and I'll just get another wife and go on and pretend, you're not mourning.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the place where God can't comfort you. He can't bless you through that experience because you haven't even faced your own hurt. Is that legit to say that? Like, is there some part of us that has to, like we said last week, get to the end of our rope, like just stop hanging on and pretending like everything's okay?
Yeah, I think that you have to feel the emotions. This is something that in North America we really suck at. We really suck at mourning loss.
Yeah.
Really, we do. We don't embrace it. I mean, other cultures in the world, they have a mourning process for when you lose a loved one, right?
Yeah, they're very dramatic too, like with them weeping and.
Yeah, right. And there is a healing that happens when you do that, right? Because then you get all these emotions. They're brought to the surface. You get them out. You get to express them. Whereas here in North America, it's like, don't do that. Is sort of, put on a brave face and let's go do this kind of thing. It's just, here in North America, we suck at it. I mean, especially as men. As men, we are not allowed to do that. It's looked at as a weak. You are a weak person if you are crying, right?
Yeah.
As a male in this society that we have in our culture, like if you were crying in public because you lost, a loved one, you're looked at as weak, right? And that's, again, that's wrong. Like men are not allowed to, within our culture, allowed to be viewed as weak like that, either mourning or even you can't be shown that you're having a bad time, that you're not doing well, that you're stressed out and stuff like that, right? Which is probably another form of mourning.
Or that you're even dependent on someone else, like, no,
exactly.
I got it all covered. I'm good.
Yeah. It's just not, that's not healthy. And unfortunately, that's the North American way, which is where we live, right? And some stuff that we've been brought up in and grew up in, right? It's like, Mennonite background, you can tell how happy a Mennonite is by how big the frown is on their face.
Well, and there's also that I think our parents, like the baby boomers, screw up. They were young during the Second World War, and those were different times. And so their parents and they went through the dirty 30s, a big depression out here. Like, so
yeah,
there was a whole nother way of thinking that just got into their minds, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely don't condemn the previous generation for all that. I don't know. It's just the way we've gone. But
and I'm not
the toxic masculinity. I don't know where that even started, or has it always been that way, where men can't show emotion and stuff? That drives me nuts. I'll be honest.
Or was that the that was the 70s and 80s movies, like the action movies and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it's Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and all the old James Bond, the guy just,
dudes, and
James Bond was the worst, eh?
Yeah. Whatever do you mean? That's just the way it is. The name's Bond, James Bond.
Yeah, it's kind of cringy to watch. Actually, one good example was I remember when I was a kid watching Happy Days and thinking that the Fonzarelli was so cool. And
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
brought it out in reruns and stuff, and I watched them like, he's such a douche, this guy. He's really bad. I don't find him cool at all. He's
Even when he jumps the
misogynistic and a
sharks.
big shot and all that. I'm like, oh, I can't. No, I couldn't even get to that part. I was just like a few episodes in. I'm like, I can't watch this idiot. He's not funny at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's some things did not age well, right? I mean, it's classic and stuff, but it's like, wow, people actually thought that back then, right? That's just is
But
is what it was,
so
right?
is it? How do we practically? Because Jesus mourned, right?
Oh,
Jesus
absolutely.
wept. Jesus
Jesus wept.
did not hide that part of himself, and he experienced, I'm sure, great loss.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, of course he did. Like, I mean, at this point in Jesus's life, his dad had died, right? Joseph.
Hmm. That's right.
Because
Yeah, he's not in the picture anywhere.
he's not in the picture at all, which means that he had died, right? And that's why his mother was actually hanging out with him too, because he's the firstborn. He has to look after his
Mm-hmm.
mom, right? And so he never actually really strayed far from Galilee. When you actually look at Jesus's walk and where he was throughout his whole ministry, he stayed pretty close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it even says, like, at some points, it's like his family, like his brothers were like, hey, why don't you just stay here, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, because he does have other, you know, James is one of his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I mean, he had family. He experienced deep loss like that. Right.
So how do
And
we get to that point where it's okay? What do we, as let's even say, because we're men, we can speak to that. What can we do? Just, I mean, we can. I've always thought that change starts with me, so I'm
yeah.
doing my part. But is it
Yeah.
something that we need to take some extra steps to try to? Because I've been to a lot of men's things
Hmm.
over the years. Some I'm embarrassed to say, like Promise Keepers and stuff. Being a feminist now, I shouldn't even say that. But the there was never like, I don't remember any talks about how it's okay to be emotional and cry and all that. And
Really?
even in the 2000s, like in church, we did a series called Wild at Heart.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
can't remember the guy's name. I don't even want to mention it because I think the guy said, well, I'm not going to go that way.
No, you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan of the guy. I saw him at Breakforce too, and
Yeah.
he quotes movies like Braveheart more than anything when he's talking about men.
Mm.
And I just found it so strange that it's like, men
Yeah.
gotta learn to be men again. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's no, like, and I grew up thinking that certain things were effeminate and that's bad. And
Okay.
I don't like hearing things like, for instance, if a man is emotional or sensitive, it's him in touch with his feminine side.
Mm.
That's trash. That's garbage.
Yeah,
You're
why
telling
not
me
just say
that anytime someone is tender or has compassion on someone that's feminine, like, sure, ladies are better at that in a lot of cases, but
yeah.
that's the way everyone should be. That's not a male female thing.
No,
We've
no,
just
it's
made it a bad thing for us. That's
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, um I mean, Jesus had compassion. Jesus had mercy, right?
mm-hmm.
Just look at him and how he lived, right? If you want to see one. I mean, at the same time, he was also really, really strong, and he knew when he had to put his foot down, right? Like, he made a whip, drove everybody out of the, like, he went and made a whip, which means this was now premeditated,
Yeah.
and he drove them out of, and they could not stop him. He drove them out of the synagogue, right? Turning over tables and whipping, with a whip. And it's like, and he was a carpenter. He was not a scrawny boy. Like, he did hard manual labor. He was probably pretty cut.
Well, I would
So
have loved to see that. I
I don't know
probably
if they're
would
going
have
to do
been
that
one of
on
the
The
people
Chosen.
getting my butt kicked though.
It's like, get out. I don't know if they're going to show that on The Chosen or not, but
That would be
I don't know how
something.
that'll translate. But yeah, it's like, I mean, but he still, I mean, Jesus showed compassion. Jesus showed mercy. Jesus showed emotion. I mean, um, it's hard for me in my North American thinking to view that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas um like, I haven't met enough actual honest Jewish people from Israel to know how that would have actually played out, right? I think I've met like one, and I was kind of surprised. It took me back a little bit on how he was, like, culturally and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a second, this is probably how Jesus's culture was, right? Because it was a little bit at odds with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how I mean, he was one of the guys from Jews for Jesus, and it was great meeting and talking with him and stuff like that. It's just like some of the things that he would say or do and stuff like that. It was just like, this is not how we do it here, right? But I'm like, wait a second, this doesn't mean that I have to push our way on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest, it's probably more closer to how Jesus was around his people, around his disciples, right? And just the way that he would talk and sounded like it had a bit more attitude to it than what we're used to, right? But when you also hear, like, other people from the Middle East talk to each other, that's just how they are,
Yeah.
right? It comes across as very abrupt compared to what we're used to, right? But that's almost, and it's something that we're not used to. We sugarcoat things too much, I think, at times.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's definitely, and it can vary from family to family.
Yeah.
Some families are pretty much abrasive, and some are just super sensitive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before we move to the next verse, let's say one more thing. What's the biggest thing we're grabbing from this? For me, it's that I think it's still the concept of that you're blessed if you mourn, meaning don't try to hide all that garbage in your life. Whatever, you need to mourn. Like, you need to feel the things you feel, and it's okay. It's okay to cry lots about a loss. It's okay to be even angry about it and all those things. That's all part of mourning. Just don't hide it, because I don't think you can receive blessing. Not that God's not blessing you. It's like it's there, but it's like it doesn't sink into your brain or get to your heart unless you let it happen. I think if you're hiding everything, it's just bouncing off of your skull or whatever, or off your heart or your armor. I'm not very creative tonight with my allegories.
Yeah. I think if you hold it in, then it festers and rots in your soul,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because then you're holding on to it for too long, right? Whereas if you just mourn and get it out, right? What I'm getting from this now, looking at it, and this is the first time I actually thought of it, was tonight, was the fact that this is a promise that, when you do mourn, you're going to be comforted,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's going to mourn. But you know what? Don't worry. God will comfort you.
Comfort is available.
Comfort is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about verse 5? God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth.
Ooh.
The whole earth. Wow.
The whole earth.
Even
And in the
Antarctica.
message.
What does the massage say?
The massage says, you are blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourself proud owners of everything that can't be bought.
That's pretty good.
I like that one. That's a pretty good one, right? Just being content with everything that you have and who you are. It's more just being content with who you are, right?
Yeah, so humble is not quite, that doesn't quite capture all the things there, does it?
No, I mean humble usually has a negative connotation in our society, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Like a lot of the words that are in the NIV or because in the NIV it says the meek,
Yeah.
in the NLT, New Living Translation, which is like still like sort of like LTN, but
Humble. Yeah, I know.
it's just mixed up.
Yeah, humble or meek. I mean, so humble just, yeah, it doesn't quite cut it for me, but I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's part of it. It just doesn't quite cover all the bases, I don't think.
Yeah, I like that when it just says you're content with who you are. I mean, how long does that take us to do that? It's like,
Yeah,
oh man,
contentment
I
is
wish I was
the
better
hardest
at
thing
this.
to get, I think. I have days when I feel content.
There's days when I feel contempt too.
Yes.
that was an awesome Freudian slip.
But it's really elusive, I find.
Mm.
But yeah, of humble means maybe humble could work that way. Like I like keeping things simple. And the word you said that I think makes the most sense to me is contentment. That just being happy with where you are and what you have in your situation. That affects me lots right now because I really struggle with my job. There's days I'm content and there's days I just want to quit.
Yeah.
And there's days I struggle with my pride because I've been there long enough. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this thing I did when I was first starting out? But it's not it's a matter of arrogance on my part. It's like I feel like I should have a cushier part of a job just because I'm old and I've been there a while. And I guess that's the opposite of what this verse is getting at. Does that, that's what that struck me. It's like, yeah, no, so I'm not being meek or humble, or I'm thinking about myself and just have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
I won't inherit nothing except more heartache.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, because even just thinking about that, it's like, well, so far this last 2 weeks, I think I've been the only one that's washed the floors in the shop. Right. Like between jobs and stuff like that, compared to the apprentices who haven't. Right. But I don't like getting my feet dirty. So I'll do it. Right. And I'm okay with that. And so I'm content with just washing the floors. I can do that. No problem. Right. So, but then I take pride in the fact that the shop's clean. Right. And that customers aren't having oil tracked into their vehicles.
We used to use gas on the floor when I was...
We're not allowed to do that anymore.
Just dump some gas on the oil spots and use an old broom and then spray it down into the drain.
We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
That was really bad. It's like one match away from blowing up the town. But you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah. No, I think the statute of limitations is gone, is out on that one.
But what's I was thinking too, I wrote down the opposite of what we're looking for here too, like brash or angry or confrontational or abrasive, cocky, arrogant. Some of
Well,
those things are what struck me as maybe what's the opposite of this meekness that we're looking for.
yeah, and even like even as the massage had said, like it's like, when you're content with who you are. So the opposite would be like you are not content with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're always comparing yourself to others. You're always, and you're not happy with where you are, what you're doing, or anything like that. There's no peace,
Hmm.
right? You are constantly at war with yourself then, right? Because you're
Yep.
like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I was better at this, right? I wish I had time to do this, not, just sit around or, whatever it is, right? Not being content with who you are, where you are, where God has
That's me
pushed you.
to a T. That's my daily struggle, is not being content with my situation.
Mm.
Feeling wasted, and like my grandfather did so much on the Martin side. He went to Bible school, started a whole church, started a Bible camp. He was Citizen of the Year when he died. He made such an impact on the community, on his whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself one year, what have I done to make an impact? And I've always felt this draw to do more than just be the guy that goes to work and then is an usher in church or whatever. Not that
Mm.
that's bad. I mean, I just felt like, what can I do to do more to help people? But then I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm not doing enough, and then I look for more, and it doesn't work out, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And there's so many weird little struggle things that we don't talk about. And I'm sure a guy like my grandpa, he had all his struggles too. Same thing. I don't know if he felt like was such a super Christian like I perceive him to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that being content with just even the day and the moment you have with your family, with your coworkers, and using that moment to the best of your ability to be that meek person who is willing to, like you do, like are you going to get credit for washing the floor of the garage all the time?
Oh, heck
Maybe,
no.
maybe, but probably not. You'll probably get squat. They probably
Yeah.
just assume it's fine, and then yeah, and then even as Christians, we'll be like, well, when I get to heaven, God will just give me a big super badge for being such as. No, he won't.
Or God being
It's
like,
like,
hey,
oh,
great. There's,
good
I
for
know
you.
that you did
I
such
died
an
on a
awesome,
cross, yeah, and you swept the floor. Good for you.
he'll be like, oh yeah, no, there's a mess in hall B, and since you're so good at washing the floors, you can,
That's right. Yeah,
I
you've
think,
been
I think
working all your life for this moment to mop the
just for this
floors in
one
heaven.
thing, hopefully you're content with this. I think it's more like just being content with who God made you to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think and that's sometimes that's the hard part, is getting to that, right? Like the only way I can describe it, like I was happy. I'm happy working on cars. I was happy working in a music store, because I think a lot of it was, I learned long ago that, through some of my worship studies that I did and some of the courses that I did, it's like you're not doing this for you. You're doing everything you do. Like worship is a way of life. It's just not just playing music. You have to take on a worship life.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you do, you are a servant of God. It doesn't matter who's paying who's writing the paycheck. You are still a servant of God. So work like you're working for God, not like you're working for your boss, right?
Yeah, I've known
And
that all my life because that verse is like grained in my head. But
yeah,
what they don't
and
tell you is that it never gets to a point where that's easy.
mm,
it never gets to the point where, yeah, I got this. No problem.
Yeah.
I've been in this company 20 years and now I'm doing the grunt work again like the first day I started. No, but that's good. I'm good with that. While the other two guys go sit on their butts or whatever. That doesn't happen at work, by the way, in case anyone's listening. But I've been in situations like that.
Yeah.
Where it's even wrong. It's even being wrong. But then now, as I read more about Jesus, I'm like, he's like, if they steal your shirt, give them your coat. And if they slap you on one cheek, give them the other. I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah. If they
what
ask you to
about
walk
me?
with them,
What
right?
about
It's
my
the me.
rights?
What if they ask me to walk 1 mile, I have to go 2?
Yeah.
Right? Because that was the thing with the Roman occupation. Like a Roman guard could ask you to carry his pack, like all of his gear, for 1 mile. I mean, they were allowed to do that, and you had to do it, right? They were allowed to ask you to walk 1 mile.
Jesus said,
so
hey,
then
go
you
double.
do 2.
Double
You
it
go
up.
2. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. I mean, just do it. And it's hard to live out. That's the trick, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, that's
it's
what
harder
they
to
don't
live
tell
out.
you. That it's not, you could know it, you could do it, but it's not ever going to be easy. It's not like
No.
it's second nature to you ever.
No, and it isn't. And that's exactly why it's like you've died to yourself. I mean, that's the whole thing about being born again as a Christian. If you want to, because that's what Jesus said, you have to die to yourself and be born anew, right? You are no longer a citizen of the earth, right? You've died with Christ. You've died, and now Christ lives in you. Like Jesus lives in you. Like it's the Spirit is within you. So it's like, but then like even as Paul had said, daily I have to die to myself. Daily I have to like put myself back up on the cross and be like, no, this guy is dead. It's now Jesus living in me. Right. And I have to then try to live my life that way. Right. Which is hard. It's not easy. Some people can do it, and more power to them. For myself personally, that is a daily struggle of dying to yourself, dying to your own selfish needs and your own selfish wants. And what about me? Or I feel like I'm pulling the lion's share of the load at work, and everybody else gets to sit around or whatever, right? And even at home and stuff like that, it's like coming home and it's like I got 3 other adults living at home, and I have to clean the kitchen and then cook the meal, right? While they sit around and expect to be served, right? Sometimes it puts me in a foul mood. I'm like, but you know what? I love my family, so I'm going to do this, right?
Yeah, that's a daily family thing that just doesn't change, I don't think.
Right?
It's the people that matter to us the most. Sometimes it can really trigger us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's be honest about that. Well, that was a good talk. Could probably keep going, but I think we got it pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I like that idea about mourning. I want to work at that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, that one's not hard for me. I like mourning. Maybe too much sometimes.
I hate mornings without coffee.
I'm very open about my emotions and stuff, and kind of freak people out with that stuff and share stuff. I'm a bit of an open book. But that being humble and being meek, that's gonna always be a tough one for me. And Paul, I like when you brought up Paul too, and one of the things he said that I like was putting on and putting off. Like, put off the old man.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to pretend you're taking off a coat or a covering or something. Like, just throw off this garbage that I've always thought. The old man would do that at work. An old man would think that about this situation. and you have to cast it aside and put on something else. You can't just cast it aside and go. You have to put
Yeah.
on, okay. And it's me focusing on that part of my life that, yeah, I need to put on this meekness and put off the brashness and I don't know, be more like Jesus that way. But dang it, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's got to be every day.
Yeah, the dying to your old self and yeah, daily.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I need Jesus to come to be in the form of that old movie with Cher in it and Nicolas Cage where she slaps him and says, "Snap out of it."
Oh, what movie was that? That was
Moonstruck.
Moonstruck. That's right. That was Moonstruck.
Snap out of it. I need that from the Holy Spirit every morning. Just to give me, oh yeah, put on, put off. It's not about
wax
you.
on, wax off.
Yeah.
I'll go with the Miyagi stuff, because
yeah, that's more our generation.
Danielson.
Well, do you have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I really like that. Just the whole thing of like this is more like promises.
Yeah, I really like that too. I want to take that with me.
That was a revelation just tonight. Like that's the first time God has showed me that in the Word, and I'm like, that makes me excited for what we're doing here, because it's like I learned something today for the first time. It's like these are more like promises. Like when you are mourning, God will be there, right? When you're content with everything, you know what? You'll find that you're proud owner of everything that you can't buy.
All that matters in the world. Yeah. So when this whole earth, it doesn't mean you're going to be king of the earth.
No, it just means that
you'll have all that you've ever dreamed of, because what you dreamed of was what you have.
Well, it's everything that you can't buy.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not material stuff at all, right? It's like, then it's like peace. Right? It's the fruits of the Spirit. You can't buy those.
That's pretty.
You can't buy those. Right? When you're content with who you are.
I'm with you on that. Like I think this is what Christianity has to get to really grow and move past what we're in right now. We have a bit of the church in North America for sure has an addiction to famous preachers and super churches, which I don't dislike and I'm not condemning. But I think we've set aside what we're doing now, you and I, and put it at a lesser level than super learned men. And not that that's wrong either. I really depend on some people to give me historical context and help me understand original languages and stuff like that. There's so many important things with learning. But there's something that happens when ordinary men and women study and talk about their stuff and work it out. The Holy Spirit's with us even as we record a podcast and opening our minds to how we need to change. And I think we need to do more of that. I think it's actually more rewarding than hearing Joe Famous preacher and what he has to say and with his fancy words and stuff. Not that it's wrong. It's just, I think it's not as good as this. Is that legit?
And I think it's legit because it's also like, you know what? We're not getting paid from a church, so we can say whatever we want. Yeah. We don't have to worry about getting fired from a church.
Yeah, fire me. Try it.
Go ahead, fire me, cancel me. I don't care. I'm still making money elsewhere. It's like this is a hobby.
Yeah, we're going to make 0 cents out of this podcast.
Exactly. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for. So if you don't like it, you got what you paid for.
Yeah. Well, that was good. I think.
That's good. The only cost here is a like and a subscribe.
That's right. Yeah, and that doesn't take much.
No, it's a one click of a button. Thank you
Yeah.
very
So
much.
with that in mind, uh, we want you to be involved in this discussion. If you're listening to this, you have lots of options. If you're watching the video on YouTube, it even has our Twitter address right there on the overlay.
Hmm.
We have a Discord server, and if you're not on Discord, I'm gonna promote Discord a bit because it's, I think, one of the best new ways to communicate. It doesn't have all the Facebook junk and all that. If you're tired of Facebook, I've heard people, I'm so tired of Facebook. Well, get on Discord. It's there's lots of options for communicating with people, pictures, all those things, but not all the trashiness, and there's no commercials or none of that stuff. There's no one putting up phishing things like asking you what your mother's first, like, tell us your you know, they make you give out information and you think it's a fun
Yeah.
game. Yeah, there's none
Yeah.
of that on Discord. Anyway, we have a Discord. Just a more about Jesus, and you can find that on other stuff. We have so our Twitter again is at moreaboutjesus3. We have an email, moreaboutjesus21@gmail.com. You could send us, no one's done it yet, but so you could be the first. You could be the first to ask us a question on email or send us even a scathing letter saying, you guys are terrible. Please stop podcasting. At least we'll have an email. I'm just
That's called
kidding.
viewer engagement.
Yeah, and there's no, what do they say? Criticism is good.
Hey, it's viewer engagement, whether it's good or bad.
No, there was a term I forgot, but I'm too old to remember it right now. My Twitter is at Alanon68. Daniel's on there as at DannyBoyDunbar. We want you to reach out and talk about these things because we think it's important. We're not just doing this to hear ourselves talk. We do post stuff on our Facebooks and stuff like that, so you can comment there. But there's better ways, and or just talk with your friends about it. Like, subscribe, all those things. Those are free. Not right. Because we need your help, but because it's cool to spread this message around, because we really do think that the world needs to know more about Jesus. We really believe that the church itself even might have lost the sight of what it means to make what they do about Jesus.
Yeah.
So let's do that, more of that. So that's it. I'm going to sign off. Until next time, let's all do what we can to be more like Jesus.
Amen. And we'll see you all next time.